Hello friends, it's IA here again, a little older, a little grayer, and hopefully a little wiser. I recently turned 70, and it feels like both a milestone and a moment for reflection. For those of you who watched my first video, thank you. Your stories and comments about how life changes as we age really resonated with me. They reminded me that even though I've chosen to step back from people in many ways, there are still connections out there, real, meaningful ones, that we can find even from a distance. Today, I want to talk more about why I've come to avoid people, what I've learned over the years, and why, honestly, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. If you're someone in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, I think you'll understand where I'm coming from. This isn't about bitterness or regret. It's about choosing peace, protecting your time, and recognizing what truly matters in the years we have left. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. One, how time changes us. Time has a way of shaping us in ways we often don't notice until we pause and reflect. Turning 70 has brought with it a profound sense of clarity about what matters most in life. It's not just the passage of years, it's the accumulation of experiences, both good and bad, that slowly refine how we see the world and ourselves. Looking back, I've come to realize how much time has not only changed me but also taught me. When I was younger, time felt infinite. Days seemed to stretch endlessly, and I thought there would always be enough of them to fix mistakes, pursue dreams, and nurture relationships. But as the years roll on, that illusion fades. You begin to see time as it truly is, a finite resource slipping through your fingers faster than you'd like. By 70, you don't just see the sand in the hourglass, you feel it. Every decision you make carries weight because the luxury of endless tomorrows no longer exists. This awareness of time has shifted my priorities in a way I never anticipated. I used to chase after so many things, achievements, recognition, social connections, believing they were markers of a life well lived. But now I see that so much of it was noise, distractions from what really matters. The older I get, the more I understand that the most valuable currency isn't money or fame, it's peace of mind. And peace isn't something you find in a crowded room or a hectic schedule. It's something you cultivate by choosing how to spend your time and who to spend it with. Another thing time has taught me is that relationships evolve, and so do we. There was a time when I felt compelled to keep everyone in my life, to hold on to every friendship, even the ones that no longer served me. I believed that letting go meant failing somehow, that it reflected poorly on me. But time has a way of showing you the truth about people, and about yourself. Not everyone is meant to walk with you through every chapter of your life. Some people are only meant to be part of a few pages, and that's okay. At 70, I've learned to be more selective about who I allow into my life. It's not out of bitterness or arrogance, it's about valuing the time I have left. I want to spend it with people who truly see me, who bring joy and warmth into my life rather than conflict and stress. Time has taught me that not every relationship is worth maintaining, and that saying goodbye to toxic or shallow connections isn't a loss, it's a gain. Reflecting on the decades behind me, I also see how time has given me perspective on regrets. I used to fear them, to try to live in a way that avoided making mistakes at all costs. But life doesn't work that way. We all make choices we wish we could undo, say things we wish we hadn't, or stay silent when we should have spoken up. The gift of time, though, is that it allows us to see those regrets in a different light. They're not just mistakes, they're lessons. They've shaped who I am today. And while I wouldn't want to relive them, I wouldn't erase them either. Time also changes how we see the world. When I was younger, everything felt so urgent. Every problem seemed monumental, every conflict a battle that needed to be won. Now, I realize that most things work themselves out, with or without my intervention. The world is full of noise, opinions, arguments, and crises, but I no longer feel the need to engage with all of it. Time has taught me that peace comes from knowing when to step back and when to let go. The passage of time has also brought gratitude. As I sit here now, I'm more thankful than ever for the little things I once overlooked, the quiet moments, the way the sunlight filters through the trees in the morning, the laughter of my grandchildren, the simple pleasure of a home-cooked meal. These are the things that fill my heart. They don't require grand gestures or busy schedules, they simply require being present and appreciative. Time has changed me in ways I couldn't have imagined when I was younger. It stripped away the layers of pretense, the need to prove myself, and the fear of what others might think. It's replaced those things with a deeper understanding of who I am and what I value. And while aging comes with its own set of challenges, I wouldn't trade the wisdom and perspective I've gained for anything. If there's one thing I want to leave you with, it's this: time is precious, but it's also forgiving. Even at 70, there's still room for growth, for love, for joy. There's still time to focus on what truly matters, to let go of what doesn't, and to embrace the life you have with open arms. Time changes us, yes, but it also gives us the chance to change ourselves. And for that, I'm endlessly grateful. 2. The value of solitude. As I've grown older, solitude has become more than just an absence of people, it has become a sanctuary. A space where I can truly breathe and exist as myself. In my younger years, I used to fear being alone. The silence felt heavy, and the lack of constant activity made me restless. But now, at 70, I see solitude not as a void but as a gift, a treasure that I have come to cherish more than I ever thought possible. Solitude allows me to slow down and reconnect with the things that truly matter. In the hustle and noise of earlier decades, it was easy to get swept up in obligations, social expectations, and the constant need to do rather than simply be. But in solitude, there is no pressure to perform, no need to keep up appearances, no one demanding my attention. There is only the quiet, and in that quiet, I found clarity. I found myself. One of the most beautiful things about solitude is that it allows you to listen, not to the chatter of the world but to your own heart. When we're constantly surrounded by people, their voices can drown out our own. Their opinions, expectations, and energy can blur our sense of who we are. But in solitude, I've had the time and space to reflect on my life, my values, and my desires without interference. It's in those quiet moments that I've come to understand what truly brings me joy and what doesn't, what I want to embrace and what I need to let go of. I've also discovered that solitude fosters gratitude. When I'm alone, I notice the details I once took for granted, the way the sunlight dances on the leaves, the soft sound of rain on the roof, the warmth of a cozy blanket on a cool morning. These are small, ordinary things, but in the stillness of solitude, they feel extraordinary. They remind me that joy doesn't always come from grand gestures or big events, it often comes from the simple beauty of everyday life. Another lesson solitude has taught me is that loneliness and being alone are not the same thing. Loneliness is an ache, a longing for connection that isn't fulfilled. I've felt that before, especially in times when I was surrounded by people but still felt unseen or misunderstood. But being alone is different. It's a choice, a conscious decision to step back and create space for myself. In solitude, I don't feel lonely, I feel whole. I feel at peace. That peace is something I protect fiercely now because I've come to understand how rare and precious it is. Over the years, I've had my share of chaotic relationships and draining social dynamics. I've learned that not everyone who enters your life brings value, and not every relationship is worth maintaining. Solitude has given me the courage to set boundaries, to say no when I need to, and to prioritize my well-being over others' expectations. It's a freedom I wish I'd embraced sooner. Solitude has also become a time for creativity and curiosity. In the stillness, I find myself drawn to the things I love: reading, writing, gardening, or simply sitting outside and watching the world go by. These moments aren't about productivity, they're about presence. They're about immersing myself in activities that nourish my soul rather than drain my energy. Perhaps most importantly, solitude has taught me to appreciate the relationships I do choose to keep. It's not about shutting people out entirely, it's about being intentional with my time and energy. When I do spend time with loved ones, it feels more meaningful because I'm approaching it from a place of peace and fullness rather than exhaustion or obligation. Solitude has helped me see that quality always matters more than quantity when it comes to human connection. As I reflect on the value of solitude, I realize that it's not just about retreating from the world, it's about returning to myself. In the quiet, I've found strength, clarity, and contentment that I never knew I needed. It's a reminder that even in a world that often glorifies busyness and constant interaction, there is immense power in stillness. If there's one thing I would tell my younger self, or anyone struggling with the idea of being alone, it's this: solitude isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. It's a space where you can heal, grow, and rediscover who you are. And in that discovery, you might just find the peace and happiness you've been searching for all along. 3. The challenges of trust. Trust is one of the most fragile yet vital elements of life. It's something we often give freely when we're young, only to find ourselves guarding it more carefully as we grow older and wiser. At 70, I've come to understand trust in a way I never could in my earlier years. It's not just about believing in others, but about recognizing who has earned a place in your life and guarding that place carefully. The journey to this understanding hasn't been an easy one. When I was younger, I believed the best in people almost instinctively. I thought kindness would always be met with kindness, honesty with honesty. I gave my trust freely, perhaps too freely. But life, as it often does, taught me some hard lessons. Not everyone operates from the same place of sincerity. Some people take advantage of your openness, while others betray, manipulate, or deceive, not always out of malice, but sometimes out of their own pain or self-interest. Each betrayal or disappointment left its mark on me. Business deals that went wrong, friendships that crumbled in times of need, and relationships that left me questioning my worth. All of these experiences felt like cracks in the foundation of how I viewed the world. The sting of those betrayals lingered, and I found myself questioning not just others, but also myself. How could I have been so blind? How did I not see this coming? These questions weighed heavily for years, and trust became something I viewed with caution, a vulnerability I wasn't sure I wanted to expose again. By the time I reached my 60s, I approached people with hesitation, always wondering, what do they really want from me? What's their angle? It wasn't bitterness, it was self-preservation, a shield I built to protect myself from further harm. But here's what I've learned about trust: while it can be broken, it can also be rebuilt. That process, however, requires patience, discernment, and a willingness to heal. Now, I give my trust more carefully, not as an act of fear, but as an act of wisdom. I no longer feel the need to explain myself or prove my worth to others. Instead, I focus on observing, listening, and understanding who people truly are before inviting them into my inner circle. Trust isn't something I hand out lightly anymore, it's something that must be earned. This doesn't mean I've closed myself off completely. On the contrary, navigating trust more thoughtfully has helped me deeply appreciate the people who truly deserve it. When someone proves themselves to be kind, reliable, and genuine, that trust feels even more valuable. It's not something I take for granted, because I know how rare it can be. One of the greatest lessons I've learned is to trust myself. In my younger years, I often ignored my instincts, brushing aside red flags in favor of giving people the benefit of the doubt. I wanted so badly to believe in the goodness of others that I silenced the little voice inside me that said, "This doesn't feel right." Now, I honor that voice. I've learned to trust my own judgment, to listen to my gut when it tells me to proceed with caution, or to walk away. It's one of the greatest gifts aging has given me, the understanding that my intuition is one of my most powerful tools, and it rarely steers me wrong. At this stage of life, I also understand that not everyone is meant to stay in your life forever. Some people come into your world for a season or a purpose, and when their time is over, it's okay to let them go. Clinging to relationships out of guilt or obligation only leads to resentment. Trust doesn't mean keeping everyone close, it means knowing who belongs in your life and who doesn't. There are moments, I'll admit, when I wonder if I've become too cautious, too guarded. But then I remind myself that trust, like any precious thing, must be handled with care. It's not about shutting people out, it's about letting the right ones in. The people I choose to trust now are the ones who've shown me time and time again that they are worthy of it. They're the ones who show up, who listen, who respect my boundaries and my time. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that trust isn't just about others, it's about protecting your peace. It's about recognizing your worth and refusing to settle for relationships that lack mutual respect and authenticity. The challenges of trust have shaped me, yes, but they've also strengthened me. They've taught me to value the connections that matter and to walk away from the ones that don't. At 70, I see trust as a gift, rare, delicate, and deeply meaningful. It's not something to give lightly, but when shared with the right people, it creates bonds that are unshakable. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all, trust wisely, but when you do, trust fully. Because those who deserve it will honor it, and in doing so, they'll remind you that trust, while fragile, is also one of the most beautiful parts of being human. 4. Aging and social expectations. Aging brings with it a profound sense of self-awareness, a clarity that often cuts through the noise of societal expectations. Yet, for all its wisdom, this stage of life doesn't come without challenges, particularly the weight of what the world expects from us as we grow older. By the time you reach 70, it becomes glaringly obvious how many of those expectations are rooted in assumptions that don't align with who we truly are. For much of my life, I felt compelled to meet these expectations. Society paints a picture of what aging should look like: the cheerful grandparent always surrounded by family, the senior enthusiastically joining community groups, the retiree traveling the world and ticking off bucket list items. It's a glossy image, one that implies anything less than constant activity or endless social connection means you're somehow doing it wrong. I tried to live up to that image for a while. But somewhere along the way, I realized it didn't feel authentic to me. The truth is, aging doesn't come with a one-size-fits-all script. Each of us carries our own story, our own preferences, and our own pace. For some, being surrounded by people is energizing. For others, it's draining. For me, I've found that peace comes in quiet moments, not in crowds or busy schedules. It's not that I don't love my family or value my connections, it's that I've come to prioritize depth over quantity, simplicity over busyness. And that's okay. It took me years to understand that stepping away from certain social expectations wasn't selfish or antisocial, it was an act of self-respect. When I hit 70, I gave myself permission to stop apologizing for the life I wanted to live. I realized that my value doesn't come from how many people I interact with or how active I appear to be. My value comes from being true to myself and finding fulfillment in the ways that feel right to me. One of the hard parts of aging is letting go of the fear of judgment. There's an unspoken pressure to conform to what others think we should be doing. If you don't attend every family gathering, you're seen as distant. If you don't participate in community events, you're considered disengaged. If you prefer solitude over constant socializing, people wonder if you're lonely. But here's the truth, not everyone thrives in the same environment, and not everyone finds joy in the same activities. What looks like isolation to some may feel like freedom to others. For me, the freedom to live life on my own terms has been one of the greatest gifts of aging. I've stopped trying to fit into molds that don't suit me. I no longer force myself into conversations that feel empty or gatherings that leave me drained. Instead, I focus on the relationships and moments that bring genuine joy. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. A heartfelt conversation with one person I trust means more to me than being surrounded by a crowd of acquaintances. I've also learned that aging isn't about proving anything to anyone. There's a quiet power in embracing simplicity and rejecting the pressure to constantly achieve something, even in retirement. Life doesn't have to be a race to accumulate experiences or check off boxes to be meaningful. Sometimes the most profound experiences come from simply being present, watching a sunrise, tending to a garden, or sitting in silence with a cup of tea. These moments aren't glamorous, but they are deeply fulfilling. Society often paints aging as a time of decline, as though we're somehow less because we're no longer working, no longer raising children, no longer chasing the ambitions that once drove us. But I see it differently. Aging is a time of refinement, of stripping away the unnecessary and focusing on what truly matters. It's not about how others perceive us, it's about how we perceive ourselves. And for the first time in my life, I feel no need to explain or justify my choices to anyone. Of course, that doesn't mean aging is without challenges. It can be difficult to step away from the roles and identities that once defined us. The transition from being a parent, a professional, or a caretaker to simply being ourselves can feel disorienting. But it's also liberating. At 70, I've found a sense of self that isn't tied to titles or accomplishments. I'm not defined by what I do or who I interact with. I'm defined by how I choose to spend my time and the peace I create in my own life. If there's one thing I've learned about aging and social expectations, it's this: there's no right way to grow old. The world will always have opinions about what you should be doing, but those opinions don't define you. What matters is how you feel at the end of the day. Are you content? Are you at peace? Are you living a life that feels true to who you are? If the answer is yes, then you're doing it right, no matter what anyone else might think. Aging has given me the courage to step away from the noise and focus on the things that truly bring me joy. And in doing so, I've found that life feels richer, not poorer. It's not about meeting expectations, it's about exceeding them by living authentically. That, I believe, is the real beauty of growing older. 5. What matters now? At 70, the question of what truly matters becomes impossible to ignore. When you've lived through decades of striving, learning, and enduring, you begin to realize how little of the chaos we once prioritized actually holds lasting significance. What matters now is not the accolades or the social circles, but the moments of genuine connection and the peace we create within ourselves. For me, what matters most now is simplicity. I find joy in the quiet, everyday moments, the laughter of my grandchildren, the warmth of the sun on my face during a morning walk, the way the house feels at dusk when everything is still. These moments may seem small, but they hold a depth that is difficult to describe. They remind me that life's richness isn't found in grand gestures or busy schedules. It's in appreciating the beauty that surrounds us every day. I've also come to value authenticity above all else. At this age, there's no room for pretense. What matters are the relationships that feel real, the conversations that are meaningful, and the people who bring light into your life. I don't need a large group of friends. I need a small circle of individuals who see me for who I am and love me anyway. The older I get, the more I value the freedom to be myself unapologetically. There's no longer a need to impress or conform. I am who I am, and I am enough. Time has also taught me the importance of letting go, of grudges, of regrets, of the need to control every aspect of life. What matters now is not holding onto the past, but living fully in the present. I've realized that forgiveness, both of others and of myself, is not just an act of kindness, it's a path to freedom. Carrying old wounds only weighs you down, and at this stage of life, I want to travel lightly. What matters now is also finding meaning in the ways we give back. Whether it's sharing wisdom, offering a listening ear, or simply being present for someone who needs support, I've found that the greatest fulfillment often comes from helping others. It doesn't have to be grand or public, sometimes it's the quiet acts of kindness that leave the biggest impact. Ultimately, what matters now is living a life that feels true. It's about stripping away the unnecessary, focusing on what brings joy and peace, and cherishing the moments and people that make life worthwhile. At 70, I've learned that the simplest things are often the most profound, and that a life well lived is one filled with gratitude, love, and a sense of inner calm. 6. My advice to you. If there's one thing I've learned over these many years, it's that life is both fleeting and precious. My advice to you, whether you're younger or standing alongside me at this stage of life, is to treasure every moment, not in the rushed, overly sentimental way society often demands, but in the quiet and intentional way that allows you to truly see and appreciate what's in front of you. Don't let others dictate what your life should look like. The world is full of opinions about how you should spend your time, especially as you age. Ignore them. This is your life, and no one else can live it for you. Whether you find joy in solitude, in family, in hobbies, or in adventure, pursue it unapologetically. The most beautiful thing about aging is that it gives you the freedom to choose how you spend your remaining time. Take full advantage of that freedom. Let go of the idea that your worth is tied to productivity or social standing. You've already proven yourself in so many ways. Now is the time to focus on what fulfills you, not what impresses others. It's okay to rest, to slow down, To say no. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it's necessary for your well-being. Honor your energy and don't waste it on people or situations that don't deserve it. My advice is also to embrace forgiveness. Carrying anger or regret only weighs you down, and the older you get, the heavier that weight becomes. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing bad behavior or forgetting past hurts. It means choosing to free yourself from their grip. Forgive others for their mistakes, and forgive yourself for yours. We're all human, and perfection was never the goal. Finally, my advice is to find beauty in the ordinary. The world is still full of wonder, even if it looks different than it did in your younger years. Take time to notice it. Watch the seasons change, listen to the sounds of nature, find joy in the laughter of children, the taste of your favorite meal, or the pages of a well-loved book. Life's greatest pleasures are often the simplest ones, and they're always within reach if you take the time to look. As you navigate this stage of life, remember that you've earned the right to live it on your own terms. Embrace the freedom that comes with age, surround yourself with love, peace, and the things that make you happy, and above all, trust that you are exactly where you're meant to be. Embracing the wisdom of age. As I sit here reflecting on the journey that brought me to this moment, I'm struck by the profound beauty of simply being. Life, with all its twists and turns, its triumphs and losses, has shaped me into the person I am today, a person who values peace over chaos, authenticity over appearances, and simplicity over excess. At 70, I no longer feel the need to rush or prove anything to anyone. Instead, I find fulfillment in the quiet rhythm of a life lived on my own terms. If there's one truth I've come to embrace, it's that every stage of life carries its own kind of wisdom. In youth, we seek to conquer the world. In middle age, we work to secure our place within it. But in our later years, we realize that the greatest accomplishment isn't found in what we achieve outwardly, but in the inner peace we cultivate. It's about knowing yourself, forgiving yourself, and honoring the time you have left. The journey of aging is not always easy, but it is deeply meaningful. It strips away the unnecessary and reveals what truly matters, the relationships that bring joy, the moments that make you feel alive, and the sense of contentment that comes from living authentically. Each day is a gift, not because of its perfection, but because of its impermanence. And when you embrace that truth, life takes on a richness that no amount of youth or ambition can replicate. This is my time to savor, to reflect, and to simply be. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. Here's to embracing the wisdom of age, the beauty of simplicity, and the freedom to live life in a way that feels true. Take care, my friends, and may the days ahead bring you the peace and fulfillment you deserve.